Yes, Baba. Shoye. Tvichai? Oh, sorry, Baba, I forgot your cup of tea. Sorry. Oh, no worries. It's still nice and hot, okay? Here you go. Now, put some Movicol laxative in there, okay? That'll get you moving. Okay, there you go. Beautiful, okay? Shote. What's that? Oh, the Aldi catalogue. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful mug, Baba. What does it say? It says, keep calm and kiss the Queen. Yeah, that's a beautiful mug, isn't it? Yeah, that's much nicer than our mug. I know. Okay, Twish got a pet? No, Baba, I don't have your sock. Why would I have your sock? Baba, it's got nothing to do with me, okay? Just you put your slipper on. I don't know where your sock is, okay? All right, now do you want me to shut the blinds? No? You're watching the buses go past. Who's on that bus? That's Waleed Ali, Baba. Yeah. No, he's not the Prime Minister. No. He's the host of the project, okay? All right? Te treba šešoš? Hoćeš šešoš? No? Okay. Možno počekati od minutku, ja mušu hrati tvoj acknowledgement of country. Okay, I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, daj minutku.
Welcome to the Melbourne Fringe Festival. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Kulin Nation and acknowledge their strong connection to the land and waterways on which we gather. We pay our respect to elders past and present. We acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's spirit, imagination and rich history of storytelling and humour that inspires all Australians. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Live from the beautiful Gasworks Arts Park in Port Melbourne, it's Baba with your host, Joshua Lapgrove. Yes, hello Port Melbourne, and welcome. Coming up on tonight's show about my recently departed Ukrainian grandma. We've got tales from her time as a slave in Nazi Germany, Russia's brutal treatment of Ukrainians after World War II, getting COVID at 97, bursitis of the hip, multiple organ failure, severe burnout, depression and death. It's all very fresh and I still haven't grieved properly. But what are you going to do? The day after Baba's funeral, I applied for a Moosehead comedy grant saying I want to write a comedy show about my dead Ukrainian grandma. And they said, great, that sounds hilarious. Yeah, the bleaker the better. Here's some money. Go away and write a show. And I said, thanks. And then I thought, fuck, now I have to actually write a comedy show about my dead Ukrainian grandma. Literally would have been easier writing a 4-hour musical comedy about the Twin Towers coming down. But that's okay. I also applied for MasterChef, but I didn't get in because nobody told me you can't make a jus out of Diet Coke and Mentos. But no, I like to keep busy creating comedy shows and full-time work and mowing the lawns and working on my forthcoming Australian hip-hop album. And then every afternoon between 3 and 5, I pick up all the figs that have fallen off the fig tree in Bubba's backyard and I get my tennis racket and I whack them back into the tree and I say, you're home now! I mean, you have to do things like that, otherwise you'd go mad! All that and so much more coming up tonight's performance of Bubba! Yeah! Now let's keep those sweet distractions going with this beach ball. I'll pretend it's a fig and you're the fig tree. You ready? You hit it back to me. You're home now. That's right, yes, that's, you're home now. Oh, look at all the fun we're having. You're home now. Hit it back up here. You're home now. Oh my goodness, never ending fun. You're home now. Oh, that's a big one. You're home now. Oh. You're home now. 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 Yes, Baba. Yeah, I'm all right. Why? Oh, yeah, well, don't worry about that, okay? All right? You okay? Te treba šešoš? No? Oh, sorry, everybody. Very rude of me. Everyone, this is Baba. Baba says hello. Hello. Oh, beautiful, okay. She says you all look hungry. Okay, well, no, ja ne veru boršč. Te máš boršč? Sorry, no boršč. Kto vina? Yeah, doing tak. I'm sorry, what's your name? Steph. Baba says you look cold. Are you a bit nippy? Little bit? Yeah, Baba does know best, okay? And Baba doesn't want you to be cold, so she's told me to put this blanket over your lap, okay? So Baba wants you to be nice and warm. There you go, Steph. Okay, you have that. Beautiful. And sorry, what's your name right on the end there? Connor. Baba says you might have a cold. Yeah, just in case, she can't be sure, but she says, just in case you sneeze or anything like that, she wants you to have this tissue, okay? Hang on. $10 wrapped in a tissue. Classic Bubba. It's okay. You keep the tissue. I'll keep the tenner. All right, Connor, just in case it strikes. Fantastic. And kto win tam? Ja dumil. Sorry, what's your name in the second row? Handsome man in the second row. Michael. Bubba says you look like a young Ron Moss. You know Ron Moss? The original Ridge from The Bold and the Beautiful? Yeah, Michael, you're very handsome man. Could you stand up, do a quick twirl for everyone? It'll take 2 seconds. Just look at him. No, come on, just quick stand up, do a quick twirl. Come on. Play along. This is the only bit of participation. Come on, that's a handsome Ron. That is a handsome Ron Moss. Look at that. That is a handsome man. And look, if you don't know who Ron Moss is, I've got his biography here. Ron Moss, A Ridge Too Far. And I'm sorry, but that is more than a passing resemblance. You're a handsome Ron Moss. Fantastic. Oh, Bubba loved The Bold and the Beautiful. She loved The Bold and the Beautiful, but she didn't call it that. She called it The Bold and Beauty. That was one of her many Bubbarisms. For Bubba, strawberries were strawberries, juicy fruit was juicy fruit, Kmart was Kmark, and Port Melbourne was Pork Melbourne. Bubba also had a lot of trouble pronouncing Vladimir Putin's name. Whenever she saw him pop up on the TV, she'd say, Kurva chort zaraza shlati trapa mashegen yazuba vebu jak to be dumpu dupi. I don't think she liked him very much. Anyway, Bubba, can you just press your buzzer for me? Pritisnezvinka? Oh, beautiful. Duja jakio. Okay, now this is a $49 Bosch wireless doorbell I bought off Kogan.com during the lockdowns. And this is fantastic. Bubba pressed her buzzer and I would come running. It's fantastic, almost like it was a custom built as an in-home elderly alert system. And this noise, we've probably heard that noise 2 or 3 times already tonight, and it's starting to get a little bit annoying, right? But Bubba and I reckon we would have heard it upwards of like 10,000 times during our very extended 2.5-year lockdown. And so when I had to choose that noise from the preset list, I had to think long and hard, because some of the presets were just, I'll run you through them, okay? So we had, it's Old Faithful, yep. This was nice, a bit of Mozart, but it was 24 minutes long, so not quite appropriate. This was good, but I kept running outside looking for an ice cream truck that was never there, so that wasn't going to do it. We had this one. I did this for Christmas Day, and then by Boxing Day I wanted to top myself, so I couldn't have that. That's what's. Yeah, this one was called Baby Auto-Tune. Why would anyone want that as their buzzer, Bosch? Why?
Hello. Frank Walker from National Tire.
It's fine if I was caring for Frank Walker. What else did we have here?
Hello. Bosch doorbells are unsuitable as an in-home elderly alert system. Heil Hitler.
Okay, I don't remember that one, and we'll just set it back to the default and put it down over there. And let us now cast our minds back to March of 2020. It was a simpler time. Peter Van Onselen was still bringing the laughs on the project. ScoMo was busy secretly appointing himself as a minister for shit curries. You could cough in another person's mouth without so much as raising an eyebrow. And me, I was busy working on my one-man comedy festival show, written 6 months before COVID hit, about a guy, me, who finds himself isolated in a remote cabin after the entire population of Earth dies from a mysterious plague. That is absolutely true. It was called Don't Eat the Wuhan Bat. That part is not true, but the first part is true. And in this show, I'd be isolated in this cabin performing a Tonight Show to invisible guests, and I had an in-studio band made up of inanimate objects like John Lemon, Yoko Ono, Wall McCartney, Ringo Starr, Porch Harrison, My best friend was a homemade sock puppet by the name of Buff Biscetti, who I've actually brought along here tonight and resurrected. And Buff, what do you have to say to everybody? Hello everybody, my name is Buff Biscetti! As you can see, I'd mastered the art of ventriloquism. So what do you have for us tonight, Buff? Knock knock joke. Okay, well I'd love a good knock knock joke, Buff. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm ready. Good. Knock knock. Well, who's there? I eat mop. I eat my poo. He eats his poo, everybody! Poo eater, poo eater, poo eater! So I'm glad that festival was cancelled, because that was Yes, Bubba? Yeah. No. No, this isn't your sock. I know nothing about your sock, Bubba. She's on to us, Buff. I got false passports. We'll make a new life in Argentina. That won't be necessary, Buff Biscetti, okay? And so it was back to the drawing board for me and back to the drawer for Buff Biscetti. Wait! One more knock-knock joke. Well, if the crowd want it, I mean. Okay, well, they love me, I'm a star. Okay, but you've got to play along, okay? So here we go. Knock, knock. Dan Andrews. Dan Andrews was the real virus. COVID is a lie. 5G gives me stiffies. All right, that is enough out of you, Buff Biscotti. Okay, that is enough, Buff Biscotti. And so began the great lockdown of 2020. On the one hand, a completely terrifying, deadly novel virus. But on the other hand, I'd be lying if I said I weren't just a teensy bit excited by the prospect of finally getting a sleep in, playing Grand Theft Auto 5, watching the James Bond marathon, putting the finishing touches on my forthcoming Aussie hip-hop album, Somewhat Fly for a Caucasian Male. I couldn't find anything to rhyme with fly. I don't know why. That's the worst joke of the show out of the way. It is all smooth sailing from here. And sure, during this lockdown, I'd have to care for Bubba, but Bubba was still 95 back then and walked with a walking frame and had a modicum of independence, so, how hard was that going to be? And besides Melbourne, how long were the lockdowns going to last? What, 2, maybe 3 months tops, right? Right? And so I took myself off to the shops and I bought a couple of bottles of Aldi gin. Aldi, good, different. And I battened down the hatches for a lockdown with the world's best bubble buddy, the titular character, Bubba. Anyway, later that night, when I was out on the porch Harrison, polishing off the last few drops of my second bottle of Aldi gin, I looked into my empty glass and thought, I'm going to need more alcohol, doesn't it? And so there I was, locked down in Bubba's home, in a house where I had Christmas lunch with Bubba for 36 years in a row. A house with so many great memories because I grew up, along with my older brother Adam and my 2 cousins Jake and Matthew, spending all our school holidays there at their home, running amok but absolutely adoring our Bubba and Jido. For us 4 boys, Bubba and Jido, our Ukrainian grandparents, were really like a de facto parent because all 4 of us came from broken homes, as was the fashion in the 80s. There were 2 major fashion trends of the 80s, broken homes and brown. You owned brown furniture and painted your architraves brown. You wore brown short shorts or brown skinny jeans and a brown handlebar mustache. You ate brown jellied meat and drove a brown XF Falcon or VK Commodore. You smoked Winnie Blues, which is only because there was no such thing as Winnie Browns. Sunscreen was frowned upon. You rubbed cooking oil into your skin until it turned brown, which wasn't frowned upon, except for the 80s, unless you were born that way. And then on your lunch break, if you had a bit of spare time, you got a divorce. That was the fashion. Me personally, my dad left my family when I was just 2 weeks old. He gave it a good crack. My mum worked her ass off to raise 2 boys, and the way I viewed it is that, sure, I may have grown up without my dad, but I had both Ukrainian grandparents, Bubba and Jido, up until the age of 20, and I had Bubba all the way up to the age of 36, and that is not a bad trade-off, really. We 4 boys were all very lucky, and that our relationship with Bubba and Jido was not just that obligatory visit to your weird old nan and pop who live in one of those houses 4 hours away where all you can hear is the sound of a ticking clock, like God's waiting room, just counting down to death. Bubba and Jido's house had clocks, but you couldn't hear them. Over the cacophony of lawnmowers and pots clanging and Jido listening to Race 6 from Moonee Valley in the car radio in the driveway and 4 boys running around throwing ninja stars made of asbestos from broken bits of the woodshed roof, which is sadly true. Of me yelling, help, because my older cousin Jake and my brother Adam used to tie my long hair to the back gate so that I couldn't move. I didn't get a haircut till I was 4 years old and looked like a weird little Johnny Farnham impersonator. I've never got over the fact they buried my first show bag, the Dick Tracy show bag. And Bubba and Jido's house always smelt of cooking, of food, of life. When you walked into the cookney, into Bubba's kitchen, there'd be a big pot of varaniki, perahe, pierogies, hulapchi, miaso, anything you want. And if there was none of that, then there'd be Madeira cake and mint slices. And for breakfast, there'd be Polish kränski fried in butter. Oh, yeah. Any other Slavs will know what I'm talking about. Bubba had a saying, "Vy ne budete holodny," you won't go hungry. Jido, my grandpa, he had 3 sayings. Number 1, Australia, best country in the world. Number 2, no worries, plenty money. And number 3, oh. But sometimes Jido would combine these sayings. He'd take us to the shops, he'd quickly duck into the TAB where his horse would run last, yet again. He'd come home and say, no worries, plenty money. And Bubba would say, but we're at the groceries. And he'd say, oh. Now that's a joke. Jido never actually gambled our food money, but something that's not a joke, something that Jido took very, very seriously, in fact, was that old wog routine of tending to the concrete. And you could find Jido many an evening out in the driveway, sweeping the concrete, watering the concrete, sitting in a chair with a VB, becoming one with the concrete. Old wogs love watering concrete. They love it. They love it. We've all been to Northcote or Brunswick and see the old nonnas and yayas hosing down their driveways. But trust me, there's actually some old weird wog wisdom to it, because Baba used to say, musiš močete konkret z vodojem, musiš, bude triskete. You have to water the concrete or it will crack. And surely enough, as she became increasingly immobile and stopped watering the concrete under the back veranda, it cracked. You are a wise and learned audience. Saturday night. You are my entire audience, by the way. Thank you for that. It cracked. Baba and Judo dedicated a lot of their time and life and energy in general to caring for us 4 boys. So when the time came to care for Baba, all I was really doing was returning the favour. Unfortunately, I never had that same sort of relationship with my paternal grandparents. My pop, he died around the time I was born, and my nana, well, she'd just send us the same Christmas card year in, year out that used to say, Christ is born, glorify him. But with an exclamation mark on the end, which I always thought made it sound just a teensy bit bossy, you know, especially if you say it in a Dalek's voice. Christ is born, glorify him, glorify! If you find a better Dalek impression in the Melbourne Fringe, I will refund you your money. But my nana was lovely. I went to her funeral many years ago and I found out that she was a direct descendant of poet laureate John Keats. So I have poet DNA in my blood, which I think is where I get my penchant for rhyming. What? And so what I'd like to do for you all now is share the forthcoming single, the debut single called Baba's Kransky off my Aussie hip-hop album Somewhat Fly for a Caucasian Male. And is that okay with you guys? Yeah. Oh, you're sick. Do you have a beat there for me, Emma?
It's Emily.
Right, you are. Nonetheless, can you drop me a beat? Yeah. Oh, check it. Oh, this is Baba's Kransky. Oh, I'm coming at you like Margaret Thatcher. Oh, John Major, ain't afraid ya. Yeah, come on. For breakfast, Baba had all the best food, fried Kransky and butter. It looked pretty rude the other motherfucking day. I thought I'd motherfucking try, recreate that breakfast dish. I'm a sentimental guy, but Kransky fried in butter, that shit's only for the youth. If you eat it as an adult, I swear to God, you'll hear your left ventricle make a noise like an old Italian man with a kazoo stuck in his windpipe. Yeah, Theresa May, that shit's not okay. Yes, Baba. Yeah. No, Baba, I loved your Polish Kransky fried in butter. It's just that if I ate it now as a 38-year-old, I'd need a defibrillator on the table next to me, okay? All right, good, okay. Хочешь більше чай? Baba, I just gave you a cup of tea. Why do you want another cup? Well, who's it for? The Queen? Sorry, Baba, you're having tea with the Queen? Well, of course the Queen can have a cup of tea. Oh, well, Your Majesty, I prostrate myself before you. Of course the Queen can have a cup of tea. Oh, I've got a cup right here. Oh. The only issue is I've only got this mug that says, keep calm and fuck the Queen. That's okay, he's laughing. Oh, I'm glad he's laughing. Hang on, sorry, Baba, what do you mean he's laughing? What do you mean funny teeth and mustache? What do you mean white singlet? And he keeps saying, Dale. Yeah, Baba, that's not the Queen. That's Freddie Mercury from Queen. Yeah. G'day, Freddie. How you going there, mate? Actually, well, look, here's your tea. Put some liquor in there, make it a hard tea. But actually, speaking of hard tea, something that's been bugging me for a while, it's Moet and Chandon. Yeah, it's a hard tea. Moet. Yeah. Moet and Chandon from a pretty... No, that's okay. That one's on the house. There you go, Freddie. Okay, fantastic. Enjoy your tea. Show you, Baba. Ja tak sam думаю, yeah. Sorry, look, Baba says you're freezing. What was your name again? Steph. Baba says, look, she's just very worried about you, so I'm sorry, but Baba knows best, and we have to keep your core temperature up, Steph, okay? There you go. Don't thank me, thank Baba. It's all, I'm just the conduit, okay? And now it's time for a little bit of Baba's backstory. You ready, Freddie? Antonina Kowal was born Antonina Krutiak in 1924 on the 9th of November. 9/11. 9/11. Easy to remember. Oh. What a waste of concrete. Oh, Judah would have been the first out there with his hose, I'll tell you that much. What?
Twin Towers?
Oh, that 9/11? No, not that 9/11. No, God, that would have made me seem very insensitive. No, 9/11. 9/11, 9th of November, 1989, fall of the Berlin Wall. Oh, I can see how that would have been easily misconstrued. Oh, I feel very uncomfortable and hot and thirsty all of a sudden. I need a big drink of water from an equally big mug. Glug, 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 glug. That's the best that joke's ever worked. Okay. Anyway, Bubba was born in a small village called Holobetia near the Polish border. And on our little car rides around Williamstown during lockdown, Bubba would recount a childhood that was paradoxically difficult, yet idyllic. She had fond memories of running through the snow and playing near the river with her brothers Mikhail and Vasil and her sister Nastya. But she also recounted harder times, like of having to wait for her brother to return home from school so that she could then swap into his shoes and go to school herself. They only had the one pair of shoes between them. What's worse is they were stilettos. What's true? What's a joke? The lines are blurred. The way the show works in general is there's a fact followed by a gag. See if you can latch onto the pattern as we go. Another sad story that Bubba told me is that she was a very young child when her father died of pneumonia after helping extinguish a fire in a neighbouring house in their village. And if that sounds a little confusing, dying of pneumonia after helping extinguish a fire, what you have to understand is that back then in regional Ukraine, the men would fight fires by stripping naked and jumping into the freezing cold river, where their screams from the sub-zero temperatures would alert the local fire brigade. That's the joke part, but the first part, sadly, was true. He got pneumonia after being in a freezing cold river, pails of water, and he died a hero. Bubba also told me that money was so tight that as a small child she'd have to walk barefoot into the village to barter hatched chicken eggs for heating oil, which I also had to do as a child, except I did it playing Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64, so not quite the same level there. In the late 1930s, Ukraine was still under Soviet control and forced grain collectivization was still a thing because, communism's cool. And so in short, food was scarce and life was tough. Bubba's difficult yet idyllic childhood came to a fairly abrupt end, and the executive summary is that Ukraine, now under Nazi occupation, Ukrainians were lured to work in Germany for the war effort under the false pretenses of come and learn the German language. Come and make some good Deutschmarks for you and your family. Yeah? Everything nice and happy here in Deutschland. Don't worry so much about Auschwitz. All under the auspices of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazis. Now, at the beginning of the war, it does appear as though the Nazis actually invited Slavs to work for their war effort, but as their desperation grew and the realities of the war set in on them, they just took Slavs at gunpoint. Ukrainians, non-Jewish Poles and other Slavs, which is apt. They took them as slaves, and it is apt, given that the word slave and the word Slav derive from the same root in Latin. These Slavs were somewhat cutely known in German as Ostarbeiters, or Eastern workers, and had to wear a blue and white Ost patch on their shoulder sleeve. In accordance with Nazi racial theory, a Slavic man was considered to be worth 1/2 of a German man, and a Slavic woman was considered to be worth about one third of a German woman. And that is absolutely historically accurate. They also had some other calculations. The Nazis thought that an Italian man was about 3/4 a German man plus 1/4 gesticulation. And they thought that an American was 2% Irish, 37% hamburger meat, and 61% school shootings. Too soon? Hitler, it was later calculated, was actually 100% gopher. That's why he went underground and shot himself, because he was a pest. Let's play a fun game, everybody. You're dead now. Oh, so much fun we're having. Hello. You're dead now. Oh my gosh, look at all the joy we're bringing to the world. You're dead now. Yes, play along, Michael. You're dead now. Oh, hello, beautiful. You're dead now. Oh my gosh, look at all the fun. Yes, Bubba. Yeah. Oh, yes, sorry, Freddie. Yeah, what's the problem? Am I taking the piss? Why would I be taking the piss, Freddie? Oh, the teeth and mustache. No. This is go for Hitler. I'm go for Hitler. That's probably how he answered his phone in the bunker. Go for Hitler. Yeah, no, that's okay. Oh, anyway, I've skipped ahead a bit there, but off Bubba went. So I've got to take these teeth out. I can't do it with the teeth. Off Bubba went sometime in the late 1930s as an Ostarbeiter, as a slave on a German dairy farm. And though on the weekends Bubba was allowed to ride her bicycle to the neighbouring village, on the Monday to Friday, if she attempted to leave, she'd be beaten by the secret police. She was very much held as a slave. It was actually Bubba's brother who was supposed to go off and work on a German farm, but Bubba convinced their mother that she should be the one to go and work and send money back to Ukraine, and that her brother should stay and tend their modest plot of land in Ukraine. They all agreed, and so off Bubba went, aged just 14, with her mother crying, prophetically telling her, "This will be the last time I ever see you again." Those were words that would haunt Bubba until her dying days. Now, I wish I could tell you that Bubba's brother lived a long and prosperous life, but that's not what happened. At the end of the war, when the Russians came through and liberated Ukraine, he was terrified, confused. He ran off into the woods where he was shot dead by the Russians. Russia, some things never change. Now that's a good slogan, but here's a real one. Russia, it is a land of misery, destruction, and booze. And that is what it brings to the world, no exceptions. That's from early 20th century Czech writer and philosopher Karel Borovsky, with one of the worst TripAdvisor reviews ever. It's bonkers for me to think about how arbitrary life is. I mean, I was born in Australia because of Hitler. Sometime in late 2013, I was on holiday in Berlin. I was one too many Berliner beers into my journey. I was a little drunk. I was stumbling around, taking a piss in this car park, ugly car park, cracked concrete. I was doing the concrete a favour, if anything. And when I finished up, I drunkenly stumbled into a plaque, and this plaque read, "This car park is built on the site of Hitler's bunker." That blew my mind. I mean, it blew his mind too, but that's a different story. Jesus Christ, Bubba. Okay, ach du lieber Gott, Bubba, that's just, okay. So, turn it down, Bubba. Turn it down, Manchu, Bubba, turn it down. No, not up, Bubba, down. Press the button, press the red button. Okay, Jackie, Jesus Christ, jak ja dregnula, Bubba, you scared the shit out of me. Whew. Now, when Bubba wasn't watching the Bold and Beauty at 110 decibels to compete with jackhammers in the next suburb, sometimes I'd walk into the living room and I'd find her looking out the window, pointing at the buses going past, and Bubba would say, "Oh, buses Maloney. The buses are painted." And what she meant is that they had advertising on the side. What was odd is that Bubba always consistently pointed out the exact same bus each and every day. It was the bus with Waleed Ali on the side advertising the project. And she'd point and she'd ask me, "Oh, Vinya Prime Minister?" And I'd say, "No, Bubba, Waleed is not the Prime Minister." But what was odd is that Peter Hellier was also on the back of that bus advertising the project. And not once did she ask me if Peter Hellier was Prime Minister, which I suspect is because you can't trust a man with no eyebrows. I mean, conversely, you can't trust a man with too many eyebrows, because then you end up with John Howard with his eyebrows just feeding him racist immigration policies.
What's that? Well, throw them overboard. All right, eyebrows, you're the boss.
If you find a better John Howard impression in this festival, I will refund you your money. But, sorry, what was your name again? It was Steph, wasn't it? Bubba thinks you're at risk of hypothermia. I'm so sorry, but Bubba knows best. I'm sorry. Just keep that on. You're welcome. You know what? Bubba didn't anticipate how loud that would be as a prop, so I might just take that off you again. It was a better joke in theory, but there we go. I'm sure you're warm enough. Now, other times when I'd walk into the living room and Bubba wasn't watching The Bold and Beauty with bleeding ears or wasn't staring at the buses, I'd walk in the living room and Bubba would be crying. And I'd say, "What's the matter, Bubba?" And she'd say, "I missed you, though." She missed her husband, Fred. He'd been dead for 17 years, but that's the power of love, isn't it? But other times, I'd walk into the living room and I'd find Bubba weeping. And when I kissed her on the head and asked her what's wrong, she'd look up at me and ask, "Deya moi mama. Where's my mum?" What are you supposed to say to that? Bubba left Ukraine without knowing what would become of her family, and it was only many years later when her sister Nastya wrote Bubba a letter saying that their mother had died peacefully of old age in their village. Except that wasn't the truth. Bubba's sister couldn't bear to tell Bubba the truth for fear of making her live a life of guilt in Australia. Bubba only learnt the truth when her sister Nastya, 75 weeks from death, rang Bubba and told her what happened. At the end of the war, when the Soviets came through and liberated Ukraine, they identified anyone who collaborated with the Nazis, and I use that word collaborated very fucking loosely. They stamped their passports, marked them as traitors to the Soviet cause, and so Bubba's mother, along with tens of thousands of others, was loaded onto a train for 10 years hard labour in the gulags in Siberia. Except she never made it. She died on the train journey over. At least the Russians gave her a respectful send-off. So I said that. Oh no, hang on. Sorry, I got that wrong. Sorry, that's not what happened at all. What actually happened is the Russians threw her dead body off the side of a moving train. No funeral, no ashes, nothing. And that is what communism means to me. And that is why democracy is worth fighting for. So that the next time a little old lady looks up at us through tears asking, "Where's my mum?" we have an answer better than, "I don't know." Communism should be a phase. 9 to 12 is your Pokemon phase. 13 to 16 is your Red Hot Chili Peppers phase. 17 to 18 is your black hair, ear-piercing goth phase. And 19 to 20 is your replace private property in a profit-based economy with public ownership and communal control of at least the major means of production phase. And then by 21, your brain cells start to coalesce. You realise that Lenin and Marx were useless fucking imbeciles who probably wiped their arsehole with their foreskin, and that communism isn't a philosophy or an ideology, but like COVID, it's a disease. Because the war in Ukraine is not just some obscure regional conflict in that weird, poor part of Europe where a man's wardrobe mainly consists of matching Adidas tracksuits. But it's a battle of competing ideologies for all the things in the West that we hold sacred and all the things that we've come to take for granted. The ability to do largely what we like, the ability to vote, for better or worse, the ability to say largely what we like. Dacos was robbed. Thought that might have more support. Okay, that's fine. Disney haven't made enough Star Wars spin-offs. ScoMo is a two-pump lover. Well, that's true. I read that in the Hansard. But all of that, all of those things are paid for with blood. And you may not like that, and you might not like violence, and God bless you, you might be a pacifist. But I believe democracy is worth fighting for, and I believe your culture is worth your life. And if you don't want to take my word for it, then it's probably worth asking an Indigenous Australian from Tasmania, which is really hard to do because back in the day, a certain imperial war machine tried to wipe them off the face of the earth, and they've had to scrap and scrap to preserve their language, let alone their culture. So the next time you're sitting here listening to that acknowledgement of country thinking, "Oh, isn't this just a bit of white man guilt nonsense?" No, it's progress. It's progress. It's very fucking slow progress. And sometimes you take one step forward and two steps back, but it's progress all the same. And I like that the acknowledgement of country comes with a bit of info about who recorded it. And the one we heard at the top of tonight's show was the 2022 Deadly Funny winner, Janty Blair, who's a lovely Indigenous woman who I met the other day, very funny, very talented. But back in the day, it was just white people recording those acknowledgements of country. They just get any old honky in off the street into a voiceover booth and away you go. And I did some digging and I found the first ever acknowledgement of country.
Hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles. This week, National Tiles have a beautiful range of polished porcelain floor tiles.
And we'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land.
A seamless audio transition, I'm sure we can all agree. Something that probably hits a little differently today, given what's just happened. But there we go. Another story that Bubba would often tell me was that when she was a teenage slave on the dairy farm in Germany, whenever she heard an air raid siren, she'd run back to her lodgings where she had a double bunk bed and she'd hide, not under the bunk bed, but on top of it, under a blanket. You know, like she was hiding from the boogeyman. I mean, it was an air raid siren, not a boogeyman siren. But, having said that, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, they were the boogeymen. And you know that Stalin wasn't his real name. He was Georgian. His real name was Josip Vissarionovich Djugashvili. He changed his name to Stalin to project an image of strength to the Russian people. You know, because it means man of steel in Russian, which is a bit like Anthony Albanese changing his name to Ant-Man Albanese and then gunning anyone down who's got a university degree. In 1947, Bubba and Jiddo got married in a town hall in part of Germany that was then controlled by the US, and they applied to come to Australia. Why Australia? Oh. Well, because like Aldi, it was good. Different. They arrived, like so many other migrants did, by boat, because according to Bubba, that was the fashion. You know, screaming, crying, vomiting, hiding from pig-sized rats was the fashion. But 8,000 nautical miles later, they made it, they arrived, they established their home here in Melbourne. And so I always found it a little odd that very shortly thereafter they decided to get on another boat again, except this time it was just a lovely little river luncheon cruise on the Yarra with some friends organised by the Ukrainian church group. Anyway, it sank. And luckily they were rescued by some heroic locals who dragged everyone to shore and no one died, but there was an investigation because there was some foul play suspected with the engine, either by the Russians, who had their tentacles everywhere, or by some racist locals who didn't like the way those wogs can't speak proper Australian any good, but though, because even if and for then, I reckon. Oh, it's a shame that guy's racist. Like, I'm starting to like him a bit. But I wanted to learn a little bit more about that, so I took myself off to the State Library, and I found the two major newspapers of the day, and I found the front pages from those two major newspapers. There was the Argus, which was the forerunner of the Age, and on their front page they had "Migrant boat sinks on Yarra." Fair enough. And I found the Herald, which was the forerunner of the Herald Sun, and on their front page they had "Grease balls woggy paddle to safety." So I'm glad things have changed. Yeah, I'm glad times have changed. Bubba and Judah built a home in Newport and had 3 kids. My Uncle Ewan, my Mum Nadia, and my Auntie Mary. And they worked hard, really, really hard, like so many of that generation. By night, they built their fledgling home by hand, and by day, Judah worked as a stevedore at the docks, and Bubba worked for Gilbertson's as a meat inspector, which is not really a job you hear of very often these days, you know, except maybe like B-grade pornos. "Hi, I'm the meat inspector. Come back here and check out my Polish Kransky." Oh, yeah. Yes, Bubba. Yeah, Bubba, I'm sorry. It's just a joke, Bubba. It's just a little joke. I don't mean anything by it. Bubba, I know it was an honourable job. I know you had a boning knife. It doesn't really help you, Kate. That's okay, but Bubba was tough, tender, tenacious, intelligent. She spoke 6 languages: English, Ukrainian, Russian, German, Polish, Yugoslav. I mean, 7 if you include Japanese, but I don't know why you would. She didn't speak a word of it. But that's the person that Bubba was, liked by everyone who knew her, incredibly kind eyes. If you came to the house, she'd send you off with a full stomach, and if she had no food to give you, she'd see you off with a $10 note wrapped up in a tissue. And tonight I keep the tenner, but you keep the tissue, Connor, just in case. And so I just wanted to keep her alive, our benevolent matriarch, as long as I possibly could. And in order to do that, I had to have a pretty strict day-to-day routine, because when you're caring for a 97, almost 98-year-old, even the subtlest change in routine can spell disaster. So what I'd like to do for you all now is take you through what a typical day caring for Bubba looked like, and there's a lot to get through, okay, so we're going to have to move at a good clip. So what I'd like to do now is take you through a typical 24 hours in 24 minutes, okay? Yes, Erin?
Emily?
Sure.
We don't have 24 minutes.
Okay, Edna's just told me that we don't actually have 24 minutes, and that's fine. That's fine, not a problem. We'll be a little bit more ambitious. We'll click the old girl into third gear, still in second. There we go, third gear. We'll be a little more ambitious. We'll ramp it up. What we're going to do is 24 hours in 24 seconds. Okay.
How are you gonna do that?
What's that?
How are you going to do that? You're crazy.
Crazy? So young. So restless. How am I going to do that? A little thing called talent. And this conveniently placed 24-second egg timer. So here we go. A typical day, caring for Bubba. 24 hours in 24 seconds and go. 6:45 a.m. and Bubba drinks her Goop Glow super powder and eats nothing but activated almonds and fig butter. 7 to 8 a.m. and Bubba's prancing around the bathroom, putting on her millions of Goop Glow products for that glowing skin, which is part of her cleanse. 9 a.m. and Bubba's busy making her vagina eggs and candles, which is part of her... Yes, Bubba? Oh, that's Gwyneth Paltrow's morning routine. I'm sorry, Bubba. That's very similar routines. That's okay. My bad. It happens. We've only been going for a fraction of 1/3 of 1 second, so that's okay. We'll take it from the top. A typical day, caring for Bubba, 24 hours and 24 seconds, and go. A typical day kicks off in the middle of the night with a 1 a.m. buzzer. Do, 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 do. That's Bubba. She needs a toilet. That's a 20-minute round trip and then back to bed. Guess that's why they call it the wee hours. Do, 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 do. 5:45 a.m. and Bubba needs a toilet again. That's another 20 minutes and then back to bed for me. Oh, that's the minor birds in the tree outside my window. Thanks for the 6:30 a.m. wake-up call, you cunts! Go and have a black decaf on the front porch, Harrison, and get some morning sun rays. Do, 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 do. 8 a.m. That's Bubba. She's woken up. Go inside and check the kitchen floor for Max's wee-wees, and that's all clear. Good boy, Maxie. Let Max outside for a wee-wees and go into the living room where I turn the heater on and flick the television onto ABC News 24. Bubba couldn't stand Koshi and that stupid bloody cash cow. Real cows don't hand out cash, and Bubba should know. Slowly take Bubba from the bed to the toilet, then confidently stride into the dining room where I step in Max's wee-wees with my bare feet. The joys of an older dog. Clean up that mess, then make Bubba's Movicol laxative and chamomile tea. Movicol, half a sachet and it's poo-poo hooray. Let Max back inside with a schmacko, even though I really want to give him a smacko. Put Bubba's oats in the microwave for 1.5 minutes, but no longer, otherwise you'd have yourself an oat explosion. Hang on, I'm starting to sound a little bit like one of Judah's race callers from race 6 at Moonee Valley. That's all right, we're just going to roll with it. Okay, slowly take Bubba from the toilet into the living room, put an ice pack on her left hip and a blanket on her lap to keep her nice and warm, like our friend Steph here in the front row. Good on you, Steph, how are you going? Okay, and ding, that's a microwave. Take the oats out, give them a stir, add them back in for 1 more minute, but no longer, otherwise you'd have yourself an oat explosion. Give Bubba her tablet and tea cocktail, which consisted of aspicillin for her DVT of the legs, Lasix for water retention, Spiriva for the lungs, Entresto for an enlarged heart, Clopidogrel to thin the blood, and Pariet for... Actually, I've got no idea what Pariet was for, but she had to take one every day. Farmer wants a wife, Big Pharma's got you for life. Go make Bubba's Radox foot bath. Hang on, wait a minute, what's this? Why is the water all brown? That's not Radox, that's Gravox. Okay, correct my error. Then give Bubba her foot bath to soak her feet. Oh, beautiful. Even the king doesn't have a beautiful foot bath like this. And bang, there's your explosion, and bing, there's a microwave taking the piss. No bother, take the oats out and give them a stir. Add half a banana, cinnamon and honey, but no desiccated coconut because I don't like these white things. Give Bubba her breakfast and put the Ukrainian news on the TV, broadcast from a bunker 50 feet beneath Kiev, no cash cow there. Go for my morning walk and give my mum a call for my mental health. Come home and slowly put Bubba in the shower, sit her on the chair, run the water like a slow-mo version of that scene from Flashdance. What a feeling. Go and make my own breakfast, but with desiccated coconut because I like these white things. Watch half an episode of Pokemon, which is the most stressful television my fragile mind could handle. Give him a Thundershock, Pikachu. Do. That's Bubba, she's finished in the shower. Get her up, pat her dry, then sit her on the bathroom chair. From the shower chair to the bathroom chair to the living room chair, that's 3 chairs. Bubba, her hip was in pain. Make Bubba's morning fruit platter, which consisted of 10 grapes, 4 bits of strawberry, 4 bits of orange, some dark chocolate and some milk arrowroot biscuits, the essential high-fibre diet for every discerning nonagenarian. Do. That's Bubba. She needs help getting dressed. Get her up, take care of that. Then it's time to go outside for 5 very slow laps underneath the back veranda where the concrete was. Same person. Fantastic. Absolutely. Concrete was cracked. Thank you. You're really making this show for me. I appreciate it. Go sit Bubba in the wicker chair underneath a peach tree and give her another chamomile tea with half a sachet of Movicol laxative and give her the most recent Audi catalogue. Oh, look, Joshko. A trombone with a flashlight. Audi, good, different. Go inside and make myself a sandwich and do. That's Bubba, she needs a toilet. Go take care of that, then load her in the car as we go for a lovely slow drive around Williamstown where she regales me with tales of the old country. Back home and it's 4:30 p.m, which means it's time for the bold and beauty. She no like this new ridge, she like the Ridgy Ridge. The original handsome young Ron Moss from the second row. How you going there, mate? Enjoying yourself? Enjoying the show? Good, don't have that much time to chat. Very difficult to improvise when you're speaking this quickly, but I hope you are enjoying yourself. Give Bubba a lolly, then go for my afternoon walk. Come home, give Bubba another lolly, then pour myself a glass of Aldi Sparkling. Aldi, good. Little quicker next time, but that's okay. We'll get there in the end. Go sit out on the front porch, Harrison, and watch those rainbow paddle pop sunsets, which did wonders for my mental health. Come back inside, give Bubba another lolly. It's a miracle she wasn't diabetic. Do. Must be 7:30, time for dinner. Give Bubba her chicken and vegetable soup. When she finishes that, it's time for a quick video call on the Amazon Alexa device with Uncle Ewan and Auntie Christine. Hello, how you going? Goodbye, fair enough. Bring my own dinner into the living room and eat with Bubba, where we'd watch an episode of MasterChef or Rick Stein, and Bubba would say, they cook, but they never give us any. That's true, Bubba. I always thought that Rick Stein was a bit of a selfish prick. Do. 9:30 p.m, which means we're on the home stretch now. It's time for bed. Turn the heater off, turn the TV off. Let Max outside for a wee-wees. Boil the kettle for Bubba's hot water bottle. Slowly put Bubba on the toilet. Coax Max back inside with a schmacko. Coax Bubba off the toilet with a schmacko. Realise my error. Slowly tuck Max into his little bed at the foot of Bubba's bed. Get him nice and warm and say, don't you dare do a wee-wees on the dining room floor. Tuck Bubba into her bed. Give her a hot water bottle. Pull up her blanket and say, don't you dare do a wee-wees on the dining room floor. Kiss her on the head and say, Dobranic, Bubba, to which she says, just leve noche, George. I hope you find a nice girl to take care of you the way you take care of me. Switch off her lamp, and that is 24 hours caring for Bubba. Yes! Oh, look at that. Like sands through the hourglass. These are the bold and the beauty. There's more grains of sand in this hourglass than there are universes in our galaxy. Really makes you think, isn't it? But that was a typical 24 hours caring for Bubba, and that's what it was like. We'd mix it up a little. Like on Friday night, we'd each have a few slices of pizza from our local pizza train. Choot. And on Saturday, we'd each do a few lines of Coke. Yes, Bubba. Oh, that's Gwyneth Paltrow's evening routine. Very similar routines. That's fine. As a family, we were very lucky that when COVID hit and lockdowns came into effect, I was already living with Bubba, working from home and caring for her a little bit. And so when the decision came for who in the family was going to look after Bubba, it landed on me. Could have been anyone in the family, but it landed on me. And so for 2.5 years, I did my absolute best to keep Bubba happy, healthy, safe, comfortable, out of a nursing home, and free from COVID. But in the last few months of Bubba's life, I did start taking a few more risks. I started going to the shops, and I met a lovely lady at the time, which was a big deal for me because I'm a pretty risk-averse kind of person. During sex, I wear 2 condoms, one on each testicle. Even now, performing in a room full of largely unmasked people feels like having unprotected sex with strangers. During COVID, I wore 2 masks, one on each testicle. In the last few months of Bubba's life, it was tough watching her health deteriorate in slow motion. It was really, really tough. But for as hard as it was for me, it was much, much harder for Bubba. Because not only was she conscious and cognitive of her own physical decline, but I had to do things for her safety that severely impacted the quality of her life and made me feel like a monster. And chief among them was keeping her apart from the person on earth she loved the most, her beautiful great-granddaughter Ella. My sister-in-law Diana would bring little Ella to the front window where she'd put one hand up on one side of the glass. Bubba would put her hand on the other side, with both of them crying, confused as to why all this was necessary. Bubba just wanted to have a purpose. She wanted to feel useful. She was a peasant at heart. She wanted to work, even if that work was just washing her clothes by hand, which she did all the way up to the age of 93, until as a family we finally relented and said, well, you probably earned yourself a washing machine now. And that was a great day. Bubba was out in the laundry with a Yoko Ono, pouring in the boiling hot water from the kettle, rolling up her sleeves, scrubbing away by hand, saying, oh, beautiful. Even the king doesn't have a beautiful sink like this to wash his clothes in. She never did plug it in. I never had the heart to tell her. Oh, what's true? What's a joke? But those days were behind her now, and for the first time in her life, as far as I could tell anyway, Bubba was depressed. I know that's pretty weird, but I don't think Bubba would have been depressed as a teenage slave in Nazi Germany. I mean, it's pretty hard to be depressed when you've got a well-dressed SS officer standing behind you screaming, milk that cow! And they were well-dressed. Hugo Boss designed the SS officer uniform, which is absolutely true. So think about that the next time you're in Maya, trying on a suit or spraying a bit of Eau de Humanity. The harsh reality of Bubba's physical condition, coupled with the fact that she couldn't see her family as much as she would have liked, meant that in her lowest moments, she'd started to give up. And she'd say things like, Vekende mi na doroji, throw me onto the road, throw me under a bus, which made me equal parts sad because her pain was so obvious to me, and equal parts angry because I couldn't bear the thought of her being run over by Waleed, and then again by Backwheels Hellier. And I suppose, if I'm being honest, that during those last few months of lockdown with Bubba, I was also a bit depressed, but I'd always considered my own depression a little bit like a beach ball being held underneath the surface of the water, waiting for my time to spring back above the surface. And like this beach ball, I think I have sprung back above the surface. But also like this beach ball, I think I'm completely deformed and full of holes. And that's okay. These things take time. And so I'd like to offer this to you as a poignant memento of my profound sadness. You're welcome. You said the only possible thing you could say. It's an awkward moment, but I'm glad you'll enjoy it. I was really lucky that Bubba had every reason on earth to complain about her situation, and she never did. She never complained, not once. I'd be out on my walks thinking to myself, God, what if I had one of those grandparents who was like,
Oh, it's too hot. Oh, it's too cold. This Waleed, he stared at me. Oh, this spoon is too salty. Oh, this salt is too spoony. Oh, I got the kazoo stuck in my windpipe.
I think I would have gone out everywhere unmasked, just licking handrails and coming home coughing like a chimney sweep. But anyway, somehow, in spite of the fact that I barely left the house for 2.5 years, quite literally, I got COVID. And because I got COVID, so did Bubba, because I'm not sure if you guys know, but it's quite infectious. In the beginning, Bubba started on antivirals and was doing actually quite well. And this is incredibly petty, but I will, in the spirit of honesty, admit it. I was even a little bit jealous of how well Bubba was doing after she got COVID, because when I got COVID, kicked my ass. I was out for the count. But then, of course, reality did start to catch up. And Bubba got sick. Quite sick, in fact. One night I put Bubba to bed when she was fairly unwell, and I turned off the lamp and I quietly got a chair and sat next to her, just waiting for her to fall asleep. I sat in the chair and started dozing off about an hour later when I was awoken by this loud, arrhythmic snoring noise. So I turned on the lamp and started shaking Bubba awake. Baba, 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 te čuješ? Baba, can you hear me? Baba. I lifted Bubba's eyelids and saw that she was non-responsive, and so I rang 000, who were fabulous, kept me calm, and talked me through what to do. And Bubba's laboured snoring continued for some time until it got slower and slower and quieter and quieter. And there she was, in her bed, in no pain, in my arms, fading away. And I didn't want her to die, of course, but I do remember having a moment where I looked up and thought, this is peaceful. She was just drifting off towards the light. Not the brilliant white light, but the blue and red light of the ambulance pulling up the driveway, because when I looked down, expecting to see my dead grandma, I instead saw Bubba with both eyes wide open, with an expression on her face that seemed to say, "What are you doing in my bed?" she somehow sprang back to life. And so the paramedics raced in, followed by the rest of the family. And out of an abundance of caution, it was decided to move Bubba to Footscray Hospital. When we arrived there, the first room that Bubba and I were in was not particularly pleasant. There was a man in the room next to us we couldn't see who was screaming at the top of his lungs, begging for the nurses to kill him. And I assume he'd either been in some horrific accident or that there was an encore episode of The Project playing on the TV in his room. But either way, poor guy. Bubba was eventually moved to her own section of the emergency department where I'd end up sitting with her for 16 hours. And because of COVID policy and hospital logistics, other family members weren't allowed in. At one point, my auntie asked for a selfie with Bubba, which I reluctantly obliged and took and sent. But I also thought, why? Why? It reminded me of when I was in Bubba's home village of Holobetsia in 2013. And in the days prior to that, I'd visited Chernobyl, and I had photos of the reactor and the famous Ferris wheel on my phone when a man in Bubba's village snatched my camera and said, "Delete these photos. Delete all of them. I don't want you to remember Ukraine by Chernobyl." And likewise, in that moment, in that hospital, I didn't want to remember Bubba by that photo, looking grey and close to death. So I deleted that photo because it's not the memory that I choose to carry with me. First doctor came in, weirdly optimistic, wanting to try antibiotics, in spite of telling me that Bubba had suffered a massive heart attack and multiple organ failure. Now, I'm no doctor, but in those moments, you've got to defer to medical authority. But I do remember thinking, geez, I don't think antibiotics are any match for multiple organ failure. It's a bit like offering a piece of juicy fruit to someone who's had their leg bitten off by a shark. But Bubba was eventually moved to the COVID ward where I begged and I begged and I begged and I begged the nurses there to let me stay. But my repeated begging was met with a firm shake of the head. COVID policy was COVID policy. So I stayed as long as I could. I got Bubba comfortable. I kissed her on the head and I got up to leave. As I did so, the last thing Bubba said to me was, "Will you come if I press the buzzer?" Leaving that room was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. The next morning, I was getting ready to arrive back at the hospital with Mum for the 8 a.m. open when we got a call telling us to come in immediately. And so we jumped in my car and I drove like Peter Brock, but more accurately, back to Footscray Hospital, where we raced in, gowned and masked up, and by some miracle, even though Bubba was very much unconscious, we made it in for the last 30 seconds of Bubba's time here on Earth. My mum telling Bubba through tears to go be with her beloved husband, Fred, my jiddo. Go to the light, the actual white light this time. I know at 3 months shy of 98, it seems pretty selfish of me to have wanted more time with Bubba. But when you really love someone, even the longest life seems too short. And for as gut-wrenchingly painful as it was, leaving her alone in that COVID ward overnight, I'm still so desperately grateful that my mum and I were there for those final few heartbeats, because to watch a family member die over Skype or Zoom or worse, Microsoft Teams, Jesus. That's something I don't think I ever could have lived with. Caring for Bubba was genuinely the privilege of my life. And so I'd like to leave you all now with this. Whenever I was little Johnny Farnham, whenever I was sick or unwell or injured, Bubba would sit me down, she'd look me in the eye and she'd say,
"Hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles."
"Yes, nail, Bubba. I know that's not what you used to say. I know, that's just Emily getting me back because I kept getting her name wrong all night."
So you do know my name?
Zip it, egg. Eggy, egg. Bubba, do you remember what you used to say? Do you want to tell them? You want to share it with them? Okay, Bubba wants to leave you all on this. Number 1, enjoying it, you food. Number 2, enjoying it, you family. And number 3, enjoying it, you life. Oh, and fuck Putin in his fat, ugly face. Slava Ukraini! Thank you very much. That's the end of my show. Thank you. That's a little bonus bit. Oh my goodness, thank you very much. That was a really fun show to end the run on. Thank you. Thank you so very much.